Hey there, Motorheads. Getting ready for part 2 on the TXL engine. I am going to bore my own cylinders. This will be the first time I've ever tried this, and I'll show you what I got going on here. So, first and foremost, we got the big Gorton mill. She's a beast. She weighs quite a bit more than your typical Bridgeport. It goes over 3,000 pounds. I know there's some big Bridgeports that can weigh up to that, but your typical belt drive Bridgeport's like 2,000. So she's a monster mill. Should be plenty rigid and sturdy. The lathe will not be involved in this. I could probably spin these cylinders in the lathe, but I think the whole setup makes more sense in the mill. So Farley's here to help. Farley's supervising. So what we've got going on over here is I've already sized up the piston in previous videos. The new pistons, I've got the sizes written on the top of the box. You've seen the bore gauge before. New tools that you haven't seen. I've got this jumbo size Criterion boring head. I've had it for quite a while. I've never had an excuse to buy the right shank for this mill. I've got a smaller boring head that I've always used, but this job calls for the big boring head. I got a 1-inch Kennametal boring bar. Takes TPG 3 series carbide inserts. Used it extensively on the lathe. Never really tried it on the mill before because I didn't have the big boring head running, but I expect it'll be fine. At 1-inch diameter should be nice and rigid. And then I bought this Lyle small engine hone, and this is the micrometer type. And that's what you want. You know, it's okay to break the glaze with those spring-loaded 3-finger jobs, but when you're actually bringing a cylinder to size, they're not going to do it, and they're not going to straighten out anything that's wrong. So I've got that and got a variety pack of stones under there. I guess before I get too far into it, I'll tell you that I did some more measuring on the cylinders once I got them set up on the lathe. And there's a little bit of taper, and they're a thousandths out of round. So they need to be bored. I actually have to take off quite a bit of material. It doesn't necessarily make sense how I had 12 thousandths clearance on the other pistons, and these are 20 over, and I still got to take off about 16 thousandths. But I'm wondering if those were actually the correct pistons for the application, or if they were for a free air machine, or what was going on with them. Anyways, I'm going to do the boring. My plan is to bore it out to just over the actual size of the piston, maybe 1 or 2 thou bigger, and then the last few thousandths I'm going to take out with the hone. So there we go. So you see I've got everything clamped down good and rigid. I've got my DRO. I haven't zeroed it yet, but I'm going to find zero on the cylinders and set up the boring head, and away I'll go. So I'll set you up on the tripod, maybe do a time lapse of one of the holes, and just see how that goes. Oh yeah, I'll mention this too. For the oil for boring, you're supposed to use some oil with it. I'm just going to try some VES Extreme because I've got it. I don't have any specific honing oil. I imagine it'll be fine. VES, it burns really clean, so I imagine it'll be clean and won't gum up the stones, just for the same reasons that it burns clean. So there we go. There's your intro to part 2 of the TXL engine. Alright, here we are. Let's take a look at the aftermath of the honing experiment, and boring for that matter. I think it went pretty good. I mean, it's the first time I ever tried it. The cylinder looks pretty good. I don't know if the crosshatch will show or not. A lot of gunk. Kind of did them both in the same spot, so that's mostly the metal chips from the boring, and maybe a little bit of honing sludge. This Lyle hone worked great. I did use mostly these 80 grit stones for the most part, and got it to size, and then I used the, what size is that? 180 is what I finished the cylinder walls with. It's a little bit on the fine side, but I think it'll be okay. Important thing to remember about snowmobiles with these cast iron bores is that you need to keep them round, but you're not wearing the rings into the cylinder, you're wearing the cylinder into the rings. See, the rings are chrome, and so they aren't really going to wear. It's going to be the cylinder that wears. So that all went good. Glad I did this. So I've obviously got a whole pile of cleanup left to do, and I don't know. I've got to get the cylinder cleaned out, and I think I need to get it cleaned up as good as the motor. So I'm pretty happy with the motor there, with the base. That's all cleaned out, and I also cleaned out the exhaust because you don't want the exhaust pipe sounded like a maraca. There was so much aluminum in it, and you don't want that coming back into the cylinders on the reversion wave. All right, Motorheads, a little bonus content for you. I realized I need to give this head just a little bit of a shave. I got a little aggressive scraping the gaskets off. Have some small scratches I want to take out. And TXL heads are nice for this. As you can see, it's got some nice bosses sticking out that are actually there to clamp the head down. So I had it clamped down the other way, deck surface up, and I noticed it was rocking a little on this surface. So I'm going to start off by taking a little skim cut off the top just to level it, because I don't want to clamp it down and induce a warp, So if I clamp it flat and then I get it really flat when it's warped, when I release it, it'll warp, if that makes sense. So if this surface is warped and I clamp this surface down hard to the mill table and make it flat, and then I mill the other surface that's on the bottom, when I release it, it'll warp. So hopefully that makes sense. But I'm going to take a tiny skim cut off the top, just enough to clean up all those little machining pads around all the bosses there. And then I'm going to take a tiny skim cut off the bottom. I'm not trying to raise the compression ratio or anything. I just want to make it seal up good. So I don't know. I'll probably I'll set up the time lapse and let you watch me do that job. All right, there you go. Cylinder head is decked, nice and flat. Doesn't rock anymore. The side that counts, of course, didn't really rock before, but I think it was actually warped this way where it was high in the middle here. So went through and deburred all the holes, and especially the combustion chambers and around the water neck here. And I don't know, that's about it. Time to put the motor together. And Farley says hello. Farley says she wishes there were some snowmobiles going. No, she doesn't. Farley has no time for this. Bye, Farley. Hey there, folks. So, wanted to come back on this video at a really critical juncture. This is the pressure test phase on this motor, and it's going okay. But I want to show you my setup and how I do it. So, you do need to have your carb boots on. One of the most common places for a leak is at the carb boots. I seal all my carb boots on with 3-bond. This is the same stuff I use in my case halves. And then I made up these plastic plugs. One end of the plug fits 34 millimeter carb boot, the other fits a 38. On the back side, I've got some flanges that I had burned out on a CNC plasma with some rubber gaskets. and used them on many motors. It seals up pretty good, and you can probably see there's been some Windex sprayed. This motor had just a tiny bit of a leak, and the leak is actually up there at the spark plugs. I don't know if you can see all those really fine bubbles and how they look different from when you first spray the Windex on. Not too uncommon and not really a worry. There's a spec. It's 1 psi per minute, and this is well under that spec. And since I know the leak is up at the spark plugs, not down at the case halves or the base gasket, I'm not going to worry about it. Effectively, this motor is basically 100% sealed. I could try to touch up the spark plug seats, but I'm not gonna. So the setup itself, you could see that we've got a pressure regulator. That's just so you don't overwhelm everything. A ball valve, a T, and the hose. And the hose goes into the impulse port. So the general idea is that you're going to pressurize the case halves up to, 14 psi if you've got rib seals, like typical on a Polaris, or 7 if you don't have any ribs on the seals. Shut off the ball valve and watch it. And as you can see, we're not moving real fast. So this one is a pass. I'm going to run her this way. She's a good motor. Just wanted to show you that if you are building sled engines and you're not pressure checking them, you're crazy. It's not real hard or expensive to build the setup, and highly recommend that you go ahead and do that. Alright, here's another thing I like to do. Yet another pressure test. If you're thinking I do a lot of pressure tests, well, I do all of them. So this one is actually a good old radiator tester. And you can see it's just a Stant ST 259. I bought it at a swap meet, most likely, maybe eBay. I don't know. Let's pump it up, make sure the engine's holding pressure, and I jiggled it so it's losing pressure. So you can see when I move the hose here, that releases it. So that's my bad for making it drop, but it's been sitting there holding pressure for about 10 minutes prior to me doing that. At any rate, just thought I'd mention that since that's another test I always do on sled engines, at least liquid-cooled ones, of course, before I run them. So we're getting pretty close to running this. Need to stick the exhaust back on there and give it some fuel, fire it up, and hopefully it's good. Okay, back to the first start in progress. I'm not going to kid you, it didn't fire up on the first pull. I checked compression, I got compression, and then I gave it about 8 more pulls and it went. So apparently I flooded it, I gave it a little too much of the juice, but we'll give her just a small shot. She's been running now. We're trying to get the fuel up to the carbs to keep it running. So here goes. Maybe if I put some fuel in the tank. Alright, back again. You can see I gave her a couple gallons of some 40-to-1 premix, 91 non-oxy, plus Polaris BS Race is what's in there now, because it's red and it's not clots. Here we go again. Alright, I apologize for the barking. Farley loves snowmobiles. She loves them. And she loves the tennis ball. But for the moment, Bring you over to smell that good TXL burble. Hear that burble, smell the exhaust with me. Oh, hand warmers are still on. Notice the belt didn't move. Alright, you can see I have plenty of oil in her when I pre-lube. Alright, time to air this place out. But there you go. Hopefully you can pick up on the sound a TXL makes from that video. I love the sound of a TXL. I love a triple with pipes that I will tell you. What, Farley? But I will tell you, the TXL has its own unique sound like no other twin-cylinder snowmobile. And I absolutely love it, and I love to ride TXLs. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got something out of it. Maybe you'll find where I made a mistake. Maybe. But I went back and fixed it, obviously, if I had to happen to do that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Hit that plus sign. You didn't really think I was going to end this video without some gratuitous grass drag style launches, did you? Well, it's April. There's no snow, so you take what you can get. Hope you enjoy these launches, and don't forget to tell your vintage sled riding buddies about this channel. And tell them to like and subscribe too. Hopefully, maybe even leave some comments of encouragement for me to keep doing this.